Hi everyone. I wanted to make a video where I talk a little bit about what it was like to go to jail, because this is something that people ask me about all the time, and honestly I'm sick of telling everybody about it. I'm sick of telling everybody the same stories over and over again. So now if I'm at a party and somebody asks me what it was like to go to jail, I can just send them this YouTube video instead of explaining all the things that I explain over and over again. I gotta say, overall, it was really not that bad. There were definitely parts of it that sucked. Off the top of my head, going to the bathroom was really difficult because, you know, everybody's watching you constantly, and I have a very shy bladder. That sucked. But that is one of those things that you can kind of spin into a positive direction, because it taught me to be less afraid to use the bathroom in front of other people. So now in my day-to-day life, I have a much easier time going to the bathroom. I'm a very light sleeper, so people were they snored a lot, you know, they were screaming and all sorts of things throughout the night, even though there were quiet hours. They're not really enforced very much. But again, another thing you can kind of spin into a positive, because it taught me a lot of ways to be able to, you know, I feel like there's so many times when I used to wake up in the middle of the night and then not be able to go back to sleep, and I'd be tossing and turning and all sorts of things. Jail taught me to really, I guess you could call it meditating, to be able to sort of within yourself, no matter what's going on around you, be able to center yourself and then kind of find a way through the noise, basically, inside yourself, and relax your brain, which was great. And that's a skill that I took with me into my day-to-day life. The food was okay. It was kind of like they would mix it up every once in a while, but it was all kind of the same flavor profile, if that makes sense. So it was like if you every day for the rest of your life had to eat the same brand of TV dinner, that's what it was like. You know, there's different flavors, but it's all kind of the same general thing. But it wasn't as bad as I expected, again. And you can get like, you can go on the computer and get Doritos and whatever on the commissary. So that was nice. It was nice to kind of have little treats every once in a while. The biggest thing that I will say about the experience is that in day-to-day life on the outside, I had a lot of anxiety and depression. And going into jail, for some weird reason, it completely eliminated all of that. I liken it to, if you remember the early days of the pandemic, right at the beginning, when we really thought it was the apocalypse and everything locked down and we couldn't do anything, and we thought maybe we were all going to die. I remember being very, very anxious about that one specific thing, but the general malaise, you know, the sort of existential dread that follows you around through your day-to-day life when everything is normal, was gone. Because in day-to-day life, you know, the fact that you can do anything, you're always kind of thinking to yourself, why am I not doing this thing? Why am I not doing that thing? I'm not good enough. You know, my life is running out. I'm running out of time. And so there's so many things I should be doing that I'm not doing, and I'm not happy, and I don't know how to make myself happy. All of that was gone because, you know, there was no reason you couldn't do anything. So you kind of had an excuse to just take that pressure off of yourself. And it was like an elephant lifted off of my chest. So that was great. And the biggest thing that I noticed when I got out was that kind of came back, because, you know, you should be really happy that you're out of jail and you're free, but then it's like, you know, okay, well, now what? The other big thing was that I was very lonely when I got out, because in jail I was constantly surrounded by people, and that was it was nice. I don't know. Everybody's kind of in the same situation. Everybody was really nice. I didn't notice any of the sort of things that you typically assume, the stereotypes where it's like, Big Joe is the leader of the chain gang or whatever. That was not a factor at all. It was like any other social hierarchy. If you get a like middle school or I don't know, The Office, where there's some people who are, not the TV show The Office, I'm talking about I guess this was in the TV show The Office to an extent. You sort of, there was one person who was kind of more popular and well-liked, and then everybody kind of falls into their place underneath that. But that's like anywhere you get a group of people together, there's going to be that social structure. Overall, the community was very, very supportive. We were, there was a lot of real talk, because we could kind of talk about anything. We were all sort of in the same, oh gosh, it's really raining. I'm sorry. It's probably really noisy. Well, it adds to the atmosphere, I guess, right? That's another thing about the jail was that you could never tell what the weather was. That wore on me because I really I get seasonal depression pretty easily. I am really affected by the weather and the sunlight and all of that stuff. So not being able to even see if it was light out was tough. They let you outside sometimes, but it's, it was kind of like recess in school. If you remember being in school, you were always on somebody else's schedule, and you could have that supervised time outside, but it was just kind of like, it was like you had a taste of freedom, but you couldn't quite get it. So it was even worse.